You wrote a beautiful book about trauma and loss and the way we integrate it into our lives. What was the most challenging part of bringing it to life?
Oh gosh, the most challenging part. Well, it was overall. I think it was an easy write for me, the book overall.
Yes. But
there were parts of it that were very challenging. Particularly, I won't spoil the novel for those who haven't read it, but there's a part later on in the novel in which a particular reveal is made about a character's past that wasn't initially part of the story when I first had the idea for the novel. And as I was writing it, I kind of decided, oh, well, I think this is what should happen, But it was difficult and challenging for me as a writer because more or less I was kind of putting a favorite character or kind of torturing a favorite character in the book, which, sounds silly because it's not a real person, right? But a lot of my characters, particularly Lolly, who is the protagonist of The Stars Beneath Our Feet, I feel like he's like a little child of mine, a little creation of mine. So the fact that I had to put him through even more trouble and trauma and drama, made me feel bad, But, I thought overall it worked well for the book and for the kind of overall message that I wanted to kind of communicate through the story.
Well, it definitely did. How was it like to write in Lolly's voice? To inhabit this character?
It's fun. It's fun. It's most of the time it's not challenging for me to do that as a storyteller.
Yes.
I really enjoy it. It kind of feels a little bit like channeling spirits, kind of a little bit. It's funny because I'm actually working on I have 2 books coming out next year, and then the book after that and the following year actually deals with channeling spirits. So that's something I've been looking into. But from a writer or storyteller's perspective, of course, you're not really channeling ghosts or spirits or whatever, but it's kind of like inhabiting that persona of the character to a degree in which you can be used as kind of a mouthpiece for that character, right? And so for me, in a lot of writers, fortunately, that's something that I can do. I can just kind of get into that headspace and just kind of go as Lolly. And then, of course, the editing process, going back and revising it and adding little things and, the making sure that the African-American vernacular in the novel was true to life was something that was very important. So, all those things kind of went into it.
Yes, you did emphasize this, that the language your characters speak is very important to you. Now, do you fear translation into another language and, moreover, into a different culture?
No, I don't fear it. I encourage it. I look forward to it. I wish I could read all the different languages that it's been translated into. It's been like, I think, Mandarin and Spanish, Portuguese, some of them, so far that it's been translated into. And it really comes down to kind of trusting your kind of a partner publisher in the new country that it's being translated into. You just kind of have to make sure that you go with a publisher there that has a good reputation and is known for good translations, and kind of trust them and hand it over. And that there's a part of storytelling and creativity that is all about kind of producing this unique kind of story and entertaining people and also informing people. But at the same time, at a certain time, like I was talking about with children, raising children, you have to be able to let your kids go and let them go out into the world. And so that's kind of how I look at this kind of the translation process is just kind of letting Lolly and his characters, visit other places and talk to other people.
have a life of their own. Well, this is a beautiful translation. I'm sure you would not only approve, but be very proud of it. So
I am very much so. Yeah.
What part does change play into your story? Change as a process.
What part does change of the process?
Yes.
What process?
What part does change as a process play into the story?
Oh, I see. I mean, it's a large part of it. I mean, it's a coming of age tale, and so change is kind of innate to the story. You know, 𝐴𝐿𝐼 starts off at the beginning of the novel, as I said, very much in turmoil, right? He has a lot of issues that he's dealing with, particularly foremost the death of his older brother due to gun violence, actually in New York City, which is one of the cities I live in. I live between New York and LA, which is where I am now. And it's a problem there. You know, it's gotten, well, when I first moved to New York a long time ago, it was much worse. It got better. And then just recently, over the past couple of years, it's been an uptick in gun violence and violence, which is something, you know, everyone's trying to deal with there. But so, you know, 𝐴𝐿𝐼's going through all that at the beginning of the novel, and he encounters a lot of useful people and a lot of useful tools along the way that help him kind of adapt and grow and change into hopefully a better person. And so that's one of the things I wanted people reading the book to realize, particularly young people, that there are other options out there for you. There are other ways of moving about the world than through a world of violence, and there are other options to become better people, and particularly better young people.
Yes, I particularly like that, the fact that you never embellish the world in which your characters live, but you do give them the power of choice. And this power seems central to 𝐴𝐿𝐼's life, yet becoming aware of it is a journey in itself. What was for you, let's say, the best part of accompanying him into this journey?
The best part of accompanying 𝐴𝐿𝐼 along the journey, I guess, you know, there are lots of it. I mean, there's a lot. I think it's, for such a short novel, I mean, I think there's a lot kind of packed into it. And so, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that I enjoyed about the journey, right? But I will say, well, I'll point out two of them. Number one would be the character of New York City, which is a city that I adore and I love. You know, I've lived there long. I was born and raised in Missouri, but I consider myself a New Yorker now, you know. And I love the city. I've spent days, I don't know how many days, kind of walking the streets of New York, from the Bowery in Lower Manhattan up to the Bronx, like the song goes. And I love the city. It's a special city, you know. And one of the things I really wanted to do was make the city and its architecture a character in my novel, right? And so just kind of relaying that aspect was great for me, that kind of voyage that 𝐴𝐿𝐼 and Rose go on, you know. Another part, which we touched on a little bit, was the whole idea of the 𝐴𝐿𝐼's voice and how he speaks, and how a lot of African-American folks, particularly in Harlem, speak. It's kind of that dialect, and I think it's a very beautiful dialect. And, you know, I love kind of exploring that and going on that journey with readers, right? On just the different ways that people can express themselves, particularly with the African-American English, right? And how, in a lot of ways, I mean, that dialect and way of speaking is very Shakespearean, which is, I think, a way that people don't particularly look at Black English, right? As being that a very kind of beautiful, thoughtful, evocative, creative tool of speech.
I particularly love those aspects too. The fact that you turn the city into a character. There's actually a party of three, you know, and they walk around, and Lolly and Rose visit the city and become friends with the city. And the language, indeed, is very theatrical. It's exactly as you put it. It's the way in which you can see into their souls and into their words. It's totally spectacular. I loved it.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I also love this quote from the New York Times. It was stated there that The Stars Beneath Our Feet is a book in which art is celebrated. Being different is an act of resistance and acceptance, not resignation. It's the answer. Now, how do you relate to that?
Yeah, I love that piece by the review in the New York Times. Yes. I was really stunned by it. Very happy, and the reviewer really hit the nail on the head in a lot of ways. Art was very important to me growing up as a child, still is as an adult. I consider myself to be a very creative person. You know, when I first moved to New York, I worked as a photographer and a filmmaker, and I still do both of those things. You know, and, even though creative writing is my main focus. Yes. You know, but yeah, art, you know, when I was growing up in Missouri, art class and music class were a large part of my grade school, middle school curriculum. And at the time, I didn't recognize the importance of those. They were some of my favorite subjects because it felt like it felt like playtime, right? Because you could draw, and I still draw. I have a drawing desk right here off, which you can't see. But we could draw and sing and come up with songs and cut out things out of construction paper and, you know, paint. And I think for my development as a young creative person, I really feel that education that I had as a youth was very important to making me a more creative individual as an adult. And I really wanted to kind of call attention to how important the arts are in children's education and in everyone's lives through this book, because in the United States, at least, there's been less of an attention drawn to the importance of arts and music in education for young people. A lot of those budgets have been cut since, you know, I was a child. And so I just think it's very important to just, you know, grow strong, creative, intellectually thoughtful, or intellectually rigorous individuals.
What do you think is the ingredient of your fiction that best defines you as a writer?
Ooh, the ingredient of my fiction that best defines me as a writer?
Yes.
Well, I would say at this point, based on my first novel, The Stars Beneath Our Feet, that's been published, and the two novels that are coming out in 2022, which one is a picture book called Carry Me Back, and it's being published on Candlewick Press here in the States. And the second book is, well, I actually probably can't reveal the title of the second book yet. Okay. but the picture book actually is available for pre-order now, and it's been revealed and everything, so I could talk about it. But both of those, all three of the books, really focus heavily on voice and kind of narrative, using one's voice as a narrative device, you know, kind of focusing on that. And so the voice is very strong. All three are first person narratives. And so I think that so far, at least, that's kind of what I've known for. I've heard people talk a little bit about some lyricism as well in some of the fiction that I've written.
That would be it. Do you ever doubt yourself while writing?
Yeah, all the time. I doubt myself about everything.
And how do you overcome it?
Well, I have some tricks. I figured this out. I actually figured this out a long time ago, and it's some tricks that actually helped me. One is going on long walks, ideally in kind of a very natural setting, which up in New York is great. Here in Los Angeles is great. I actually live very close to the largest park here. And so also drinking a lot of water and eating a banana for the potassium. I know that sounds very exact and particular, but I just realized that helps, and also sleeping on it. Whenever I reach a roadblock in the storytelling process, I will usually do those things that I mentioned, drink a lot of water, eat like half a banana, and go on a very long walk in a natural setting, and then try to sleep. And then wake up the very first thing in the next morning and just start writing. And 9 times out of 10, it will have resolved itself.
Sounds like a great recipe, yeah.
And, other thing, too, I'll throw in, too, is that a lot of times when I get stuck, and I tell this to people when I talk about writing, is that not just me, but a lot of people feel that story and character are very closely related. Like they're just two sides, they're interwoven two sides of the same coin. And so a lot of times if I'm having trouble with a particular element of the story, then I'll look at my characters and see what do the characters want? What aspects of the character am I missing? So on and so forth. And those things will often help each other.
How do you feel about the idea of making your book into a movie?
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's a long process. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm out here in Los Angeles right now.
Oh, that's great.
I'm actually flying back to New York pretty soon. I'll be back out here, back and forth. But I am the executive producer for the project, and also I wrote the screenplay. And it's been so far it's been a great process. I mean, it's people make jokes about Hollywood and how challenging it could be with the film industry, which I had some experience in before, and that's definitely the case. And things have not been made easier with, of course, the pandemic, which has kind of set everything back. But it is it's in development, it's moving forward, and constantly having meetings and stuff. So it's so far it's been a really great process.